time, your gateway to the world. AFR! American Freedom Radio. Give it to them.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and happy Tuesday. It is June 11, 2013. Hope you had a wonderful weekend and a beautiful day. We sure have an amazing show in store for you, so welcome, and thank you for joining us here tonight. Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. It is the second Tuesday of the month, meaning we are joined by the lovely and extremely talented Shaman Avalon Sakti. We are going to be talking about ethical development for spiritual aspirants. Her website is sacredserpent.net. And if you would like to join us, our happy little soul family, in the text chat, that's over at souljourneysradio.com. And any questions or comments tonight, please feel free to give us a call at 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. And I would just like to give out one more phone number, as I know some people like to call in the caller line just to listen, but we do have a dedicated line for that. So if you are calling in and you don't want to talk to us, you're just calling in to listen, the phone number for that is 704-772-7627. That's 704-772-7627. And then if they when they ask for station, the radio station ID code, that's 10080. The station ID code is 10080. All right, so tonight we have a big topic, and I've heard, or it's been said, that about 100,000 out of 100,000 people who set out on their spiritual journey to enlightenment, only one makes it all the way. So what happened to the other ones? We're going to kind of talk about that, as we've discussed, I think, recently. Waking up is hard to do. So, woohoo! Without further ado, thanks so much for being here, or for joining us here tonight, Sakti. How are you doing?
Thank you, Christy. I'm so pleased to be here again. A wonderful good evening to all the listeners and to the team on American Freedom Radio.
Woo! All right. Well, this is kind of a big topic tonight. So, where would you like to start? Do you want to, maybe we can start off talking about what enlightenment is and maybe what it isn't. And, maybe address the question, is it like a race? We cross the finish line and we're there, and does that mean no more work ever again? Or is it a never-ending process?
Well, eventually there will be an end to it, but, until then it's a journey.
Yeah, okay. A long journey, huh?
A very, very long and difficult journey, yeah. and sometimes you may think you've reached the top, but you haven't reached it yet. I once climbed a mountain that was like this, and you thought, this is the top, I can make it. And then when you reached that point, then there was like another little hill behind, and you thought, all right, I can still make it. And you were just getting more and more tired.
Oh, seriously, for me it seems like the more I learn, or the closer I get, the further away I actually am from knowing or understanding anything. So I guess basically what you're saying is, in a nutshell, we can't just go, spend $5,000 to go on one retreat and have all the tools and, magically be enlightened with that one act. It takes a lot of practice, huh?
The ancient ones had a much better understanding of that. They knew that it was really a very difficult spiritual quest, and that very few people succeeded. Nowadays, people think that everybody can have it, like you do half an hour a day for half a year, and then you immediately enlightened or ascend to a higher dimension. So I think there's been a lot of misinformation intentionally to keep everybody in a bubble.
Okay, so Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, whoever isn't going to land on a spaceship and just whisk us all off, and we're not going to pop or separate into some other dimension just magically because some self-proclaimed guru says.
No, I think enlightenment is something that really has to be earned individually. It's not going to be given out wholesale like, free soup or something like that.
Oh, damn. No blue light special at Walmart. Okay. Okay, honey. Well, obviously, during this time period, after you make the decision to make your spiritual journey or on your quest, there certainly are lots of trials, tribulations, tests, etc., that will await us. So, and I've been hearing a lot about people who have had a Kundalini awakening or experience that they were not ready for, didn't even ask for, and totally threw their life for a loop. So let's kind of talk about some of these issues.
Yeah, the main problem is when people haven't done the groundwork. And that's what it always comes back to when you look at these cases. Sometimes it just happened to people, they weren't really on a spiritual quest. For some reasons, can be from karma from past lives, that you've done work in past lives, so you're coming back onto this path whether you plan to or not. People suddenly have the Kundalini awakening. In this case, of course, you can't blame them and say that why you haven't done the groundwork. But then when they start getting the difficulties, that's when it is time to really look at the groundwork. And other people, they did want to have enlightenment, but sometimes they wanted to take the quick and easy road and skip all this, tedious preparation period. But that's actually the most important thing to do the groundwork. It's like trying to build your house. You don't want to do the basement, you don't want to do the foundation, you just want to have the upper floors and the roof. That isn't going to work. So I thought I'm going to talk a little bit about, the important qualities that we need to develop that will help you, and they will be worth $1 million on the spiritual path. They will make all the difference on whether you can make it or not. Yeah. And they are pretty much the same in all traditions, because as you start to grow spiritually, there will be certain events will be triggered, you will be tested, you will have to confront certain aspects of yourself. And if you haven't got what it takes, then you will fail at that point.
Okay.
So when I thought I would make it a little bit more interesting and tell some stories in between as well, and tell how this whole thing started for me. In the very beginning, when I got my first spirit guide, which was more of an unplanned event and something that I did for myself, because he showed up in a dream the first time, and then afterwards he started showing up on my shamanic journeys, I was given training by my guide, and he was teaching me the way of the spiritual warrior. But, the training in the beginning wasn't all nice and Hollywood-like. It was, a lot of it was theory, and a lot of it was actually about ethical development, and that's why I thought I'm going to share this with you. And we would have very long discourses often, and that he would tell me things, and I could ask questions, and then he would, go deeper into the topic and tell me some more. And actually the first things we were talking about, the first 2 points, were courage and honor. These were the first 2 things. And I'd like to start with the courage part, because that is so important on the spiritual path. It's basically the number 1 requirement, I would say. Because as you progressing spiritually, you will be confronted with things that are so alien to the ordinary consciousness, everyday consciousness. You will be confronted with energies, spirits, and beings that manifest. And this isn't just if you're doing things like, let's say, witchcraft or shamanism. Even if you just choose the path of yoga and meditation, eventually in your meditation you will be seeing some really scary-looking beings that will show up. And this is just part of the journey. They come to test you. And then if you're cowardly or easy to freak out, that will be the end of it, because you will probably think this meditation isn't doing me good. I better go back to my mainstream religion. I met one man once, a very intelligent African man, and he told me that he practiced meditation for some years, and then he started having experiences, and he also started seeing these scary beings, but he didn't know what was going on. He didn't have understanding. So he ran to the church and he threw himself down in front of the altar and he begged Jesus to make it stop. And it stopped, of course, because he didn't want to go further, and he promised he would never do meditation again, and he never did. And I found the story a bit sad, because he was about to unlock his potential as a human being, and it was just his fear that held him back from actually doing just that. And that is a very good example. And you will be confronted with things that will be personally very scary to you. So you need to absolutely develop courage.
Definitely. There will be tests. And if you're scared, you gotta just keep on going. And you, at some point, you will be maybe out of your body. And if you're scared of death, that's going to freak you out completely. Yes.
And also to break through to higher consciousness, we have so many blocks that it's not easy to break through to higher consciousness. And that's why in shamanic traditions they had initiation ceremonies, and they were very, very extreme, these initiation ceremonies, and they usually involved putting you in a state of, in a very scary state. For example, people would be buried overnight in the earth, so you have to go through your fear of death. And often they were also things that were involving physical pain, because when you're in extreme pain, then you push through, either you break up or you will push through into a higher state. So the path of the shaman is certainly not for the coward. So the first thing you got to develop is, get some courage and bravery going. And then the next...
Some of them were like, you could even die, whether it's a, ceremony with a poisonous snake, or whether you're hanging from hooks on a tree for 3 days, or, diving into, below freezing waters. And yeah, I've read some pretty intense ones. So fear of death is definitely something that we're going to have to get over if we plan on being successful in this journey. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, fear of death, that's also base chakra, yeah? You're starting in the base chakra. The base chakra issue is survival and it's fear. So you're not even going to go to the second chakra if you haven't dealt with your fear of death and the idea that you need to survive. I mean, what is actually surviving? Are we talking about survival of the physical body? That's going to come to an end sooner or later. Or are we actually going to talk about, purifying your spirit and rising to a much higher state that doesn't even need a physical body as we know it? And, some of these extreme initiations and experiences, I have undergone them myself. I'm not going to talk about this in great detail on the radio show, but yeah, I've done poisonous plants before, even multiple ones, and alone in the forest, and things happen when you do these things. I'm not recommending people to try it out, you don't want to get yourself killed, but you need to know what you're doing, and you need to trust the spirit, and you're taking a risk when you do this. You're taking a risk with your physical body. But anyway, even if it doesn't come to such an extreme, just facing the emotional and the spiritual challenges of having to do with spirit energies, maybe with beings from other dimensions, for some people that is enough to freak them out or push them over the edge, and you really, really need to get over the fear issue.
Definitely. Okay.
And one thing that helps you to get over the fear is faith. You need to develop faith in yourself, in your abilities, and also faith in a higher power, that no matter how difficult it gets, you will be guided, and that anything that happens is for your ultimate good. And so when I started working with my guides in the very beginning, they tested me quite severely. they made me do some things which were damn scary. And they checked out how they put me in some very extreme situations. And then they checked out what I would be doing in that situation, how I would be reacting, whether, I behaved with integrity and honor, or whether I would break up and go give into some kind of lowly behavior. And before I didn't pass these tests, they taught me nothing. They taught me absolutely nothing. And you could say, these were very cruel spirit guides. I don't think so. I have total faith. I have total faith in them and trust. I have a relationship of trust with them.
Can you elaborate on some of these tests, or at least maybe not the exact ones, but maybe give us some examples of things that we might encounter?
You probably won't encounter the same ones because everybody is different. But one thing that really at that time freaked me out was when they came up with the idea that I should be doing a leap of faith. I thought, leap of faith, all right, okay, we'll do a leap of faith. And at that time I had a lot of dreams that I had to jump off a cliff in the night. I would be standing by a high cliff and I was supposed to jump off, but I couldn't jump. And it's happened a few times, and then one day... Okay,
we'll have to hold that there. And then one day, dun dun dun. Okay, we will be right back, everyone.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Welcome back, and thanks again for joining us here tonight. Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com with our special guest tonight, Shaman Avalon Sakti. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call at 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. And if you'd like to join us on the text chat, that's over at souljourneysradio.com. The topic tonight, ethical development for spiritual aspirants. And Sakti left us on a cliffhanger before we went to break. So please continue. We'd like to hear more about the leap of faith that you had to take.
Yes. So basically I had a few dreams. They weren't so frequent, where I was on a cliff and wondering should I jump or not. And then my guides came up with that I should be doing a leap of faith. So I thought, okay, we're going to do a little shamanic journey and then we're going to jump off a cliff. That's fine with me. But then they said, no. They said, you can either you go parachuting or you go bungee jumping. And I thought, you must be kidding me. I wasn't good with heights at all. And then they basically set me up. And, I used to get dizzy on a 1.5 meter ladder, and I had to go skydiving.
Yeah, I understand. I'm the same way. Totally understand that.
And the first jump was actually fairly easy. Didn't hesitate, jumped out of the plane. I thought, hey, that's it, I've done it. And then they said, let's go up for another one. I thought, all right, and there were 3 included. Why not? Let's do one more. And the second one, everything went wrong. We had extreme weather. We had, basically cloud cover. And then I had this very strange experience where it seemed that I was falling for about 10 minutes, and I didn't even know I had a parachute. And I really thought I was going to die. I didn't even know who I was. It was very strange, and there was a time warp, and I was out of body. And, I got through it, and the spirits were watching me. I was aware of it. They were watching me all the way what I was going to do. And I remember that I was thinking, okay, I'm going to die here, so there's nothing I can do about that. The only thing I can do is that, die with some dignity. And then after I landed safely and I digested that, and I thought, okay, I've proven my point, I've done my leap of faith, I think they should be satisfied now. And then they said, no, well, that's not okay, you got to do the 3rd jump. And I thought, no, actually, really, I'm not in the mood for that right now. But then they just basically set me up, and they said very clearly, this is what you have to do, or we just won't work with you anymore. And then I promised I was going to do it, and all these obstacles came up. When I went for my 3rd jump, it went even more crazy, because at the skydiving school they had a new plane that they were going to do, and they said, hey Shakti, we got something completely new for you. And I, what? And they said, oh, you're going to climb out on the wing of the plane and then you jump off. And I said, oh, you must be kidding me. And it was just so extreme. It put me through hell at times. But eventually I did do the jump. I got it done, and really good as well. And then that test was over, but at times that seemed extreme, but compared to the things that came afterwards, it really was a walk in the park.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was my leap of faith, and I must say that it did shift something, because if you can do something that you think is impossible for you, that you don't think you're good at, or that, is extremely scary and challenging for you, and if you can overcome that, then you get a different confidence, and you get an awareness of your own strength that you didn't have before.
Yes, very empowering. So, Shakti, is it commonplace to use our dream time as initiations?
Yes, you can have initiations in the dream time. I had some as well. Some of them happened during shamanic journeys, some of them happened in the dream time, and some of them happened in the physical world.
Mm-hmm. Could you mind giving us a little, again, it doesn't have to exactly be your test, but maybe some examples, something similar of the types of tests we might be confronted with here in the physical plane?
On the physical plane?
Yeah, what kinds of tests, initiations, etc., we might be faced with in this journey?
Sometimes when you're working with the gods, and when I'm doing a goddess initiation, like working with one of the gods or goddesses for a certain period of time, it's a process, and then at the end of it there has to be usually some kind of initiation ceremony or initiation test, and then often this will be told to you by the particular goddess or god themselves what they want you to do, and it'll be a challenge. For example, once I spent 5 days blindfolded in complete darkness.
Oh, okay.
That was actually quite nice. I enjoyed it. Unfortunately, the setting and the environment wasn't great, but other than that, the darkness, that was not a problem.
Okay.
And it can be other things too. I remember one lady who did it. She had a very great fear of water. So, and she was working with one of the watery goddesses, so for her initiation she had to actually jump into the ocean and swim.
Ah, okay. That was something I got to do a couple years ago for the very first time, being terrified of water my whole life. That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
all
so
right.
It's usually whatever is difficult for you.
Now, are there other ways of being tested, like, for example, being threatened and then being offered money or protection and such by going along to get along, following the rules type things, within the powers that be, so to speak?
Well, this kind of test wouldn't come from the higher beings, but it's rather that temptation will come your way because the dark forces are aware that you are about to step to a higher state, and they want to prevent that, so they try to pull you down onto a low frequency by offering you cheap sex or fake power, or material rewards for selling your soul.
Yeah, that hey, if you just shut up, we'll give you a whole bunch of money, and we'll give you a cushy job and place on the hill, and we'll leave you alone type thing.
Yeah, but that won't be a test by the higher beings or your spirit guides. That will be just the negativity trying to get at you and contaminate you. But your spirit guides may watch in the background what you do, and of course, if you go for it, that'll be the end of your spiritual development.
Exactly. Okay. All right. So, yeah, that wouldn't necessarily come from above, but it is a test that, we all face on the way, I think.
Absolutely, because the negativity won't give up and allow a lot of people on this planet to just become enlightened or go to a higher state, because if we did, we would break out of this tyranny that we are in. We would break out of it in a non-violent way, just because everybody would be doing the right thing and not the convenient thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And that brings us to honor, I would say, because that is a very important topic. Sometimes even when people do shamanic journeys and when they're telling afterwards what they did in the other world, I noticed that people have very bad manners, not just in physical reality, but also in their interaction with the non-physical beings in the spirit world. I mean, it's common that you should be introducing yourself, or that if you're getting a gift, that you would say thank you. And if you give your word, which you shouldn't do lightly, that you have to keep your word. You should keep your word at all costs. So don't play around and give your word easily.
Yeah, very good point. Okay.
And people who say they worked with their spirit guides and they made promises to them, but they didn't keep it, they lose the connection with their spirit guides, because the spirit guides know that basically you're a liar and that you're not serious, and the higher guides will not work with you. You can have lower guides, but not higher ones.
Okay.
So be very careful. You have to always act with honor and integrity in all your interactions with the spirit world.
Absolutely. I think that kind of, I think we should act with honor and integrity here in the physical world as well.
Absolutely. I mean, one and the other, it's like the left hand and the right hand, they go together.
Yeah, I'll be nice to the spirits, but screw you, humans, you suck.
But, some people manage quite well to put up an honorable image in physical reality, even though they crooked inside. But in the spirit world, there is no disguise. You find out the truth about somebody very easily because you can see their energy directly.
Exactly. All right.
And the topic of honor was also one that my first guide had long discourses on with me about what it meant, to keep one's word and all kind of things. So, you have to always follow also what your conscience tells you, and never betray those that you love and that you're together with. Yeah, that's very important. Don't sell yourself out for any amount of money or any kind of material thing, no matter what. Exactly.
Very good. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that would do us all good, whether we want to be spiritual or just living, a happy life in material reality. I mean, honor and courage are very important qualities, and if there was more of those two qualities, we would be living on a much better planet.
Definitely.
And the next thing is that spiritual aspirants need to have what is called fortitude in adversity.
And
it's actually a yoga term for it. It's called titiksha. It means fortitude in adversity. And, it's easy to fortitude when everything is smooth.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't take much to do that, but to still have strength when things are very difficult, that's called fortitude in adversity. I happen to have a lot of adversity in my life, so I had lots of opportunity to develop fortitude in adversity.
Yes.
And if you have that quality, that you still have strength even in difficult situations, that is just like one of the most valuable things you can have, because sometimes it gets very, very heavy, and then to be able to go on and not break down is very important, especially if you also have others who depend on you, because then you cannot afford to break down, because if you do, you pull a lot of others with you.
Yeah.
And this can be built up, by just generally developing some backbone. And sometimes when it gets difficult, I just think like, what would my ancestors have done? Or what would a really heroic person do in this situation? And then I try to act accordingly. Very important also on the spiritual path is willpower. You need to develop your willpower. A weak-willed person cannot achieve anything.
Mm-hmm.
Whether if you want to do magic, for example, and manifest a magical goal, if you don't have willpower, you can't even do magic. And willpower will keep you hanging on when things are difficult. It will make you do your practices regularly. And it will make sure that you're not getting dominated by the will of another. So these are all very important things. Perseverance is also very important, because spiritual path is a long-term thing. It's not something you do once or twice and then instantly enlightenment comes. So you have to continue practices over a long period of time. And sometimes you don't see any benefits in the beginning or even over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And that happened to me also. It's a little bit like, imagine you growing your garden, Christie. You know that. You put those seeds in the ground and you don't see the plants 3 days later.
No, it's always a leap of faith. And it's funny because, I'm always wondering, even after doing this so many years, it's like, are they going to sprout? Are they going to germinate? So, yeah, it definitely you don't see the results overnight. In fact, I've been eating from my garden the last month or so, but that's after working on it daily for how many months?
Exactly, and then imagine if you don't see the seeds for a few days, you just stop watering, and then you say this gardening stuff isn't working.
Yeah, this doesn't work. This is total garbage. I knew it was a scam.
Yeah. So it's in the beginning you have to, and perseverance goes together with faith actually, because in the beginning on the spiritual path, you haven't had the personal experience yet. As a beginner, you haven't had the experience yet in most cases. So you will have a teacher or somebody who's more advanced who tells you, if you do this and this and this practice, then that is what's going to happen, or you will get enlightenment, or you will be able to do certain things. And you go completely by faith.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, when I was serious about getting real and in my spiritual path, teachers just appeared like you, Shakti, and Tobias, and it's like, wow, it's awesome. And the timing's always perfect no matter how much we want to rush it. But it's that time. Stay tuned. SoulJourneysRadio.com.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Yo, what's up? Check this out. The voice of the revolution. American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us here tonight, Soul Journeys Radio, on AmericanFreedomRadio.com with Shaman Avalon Sakti. The topic tonight, ethical development for spiritual aspirants, and we left off talking about perseverance and, rushing it and giving up and that immediate results and expectations that I think is I think it's kind of programmed into us. Maybe by society, it's like, oh, well, I didn't heal my teeth in one night with oil pulling, so it doesn't work. I'm never going to do it again. Same with, practicing meditation. People give up after a couple tries or even remembering their dreams. So what can we do to help us, stay positive and persevere despite maybe the lack of experiential results in one day or 3 days?
Yeah, Christy, that's where the faith and the willpower come in. So you have to have faith in the ultimate good, even if you don't know whether this will take you 3 days, 1 year, or 60 years.
Yes.
So you just have to go on. And if you have faith in the word of your guru, and the word guru, I'm using it here in a positive sense because the word guru actually means dispeller of darkness. So the one who dispels your ignorance and darkness is the guru. So if you have somebody who is leading you spiritually in the beginning, because in the advanced stages you won't need anybody to lead you, you can go on your own, but in the beginning you need somebody to show you the way. And if that person is somebody of total integrity and who is really spiritually developed, not just a fake, then you have to have faith that he knows or she knows what they are doing and has really experienced this and that it is true. And if you don't have a guru, at least have faith in the scriptures, because they tell you exactly how to achieve these higher states of mind. For example, if you want to read up from a Vedic background, you can read the Raja Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and they describe the different stages of spiritual development and what kind of things will happen. And if you have faith that these scriptures are true and not having a kind of attitude, it's just a fairy tale or it won't happen to me. If you have this faith that this is true and it can happen, then you keep on with your practice no matter what.
Yes. So it's just a choice. I mean, it's basically like a school, for example. You have to dedicate yourself from kindergarten to college in many cases, or just like a career choice, whatever it is you want to learn, whether it's flying or playing football or, whatever it is. Those guys on the field didn't just get there from trying it once. They dedicated themselves daily for years. So
exactly. I mean, if you want to be a dancer and dance ballet, for example, you don't get good just by doing this for a week or two.
Yeah.
If you want to be a martial arts master, you have a lot of work ahead of you. But nowadays people think they can go from beginner to black belt in 1 weekend, and they just want it quick, like these microwave meals.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is actually, it's a kind of lack of gratitude, I think, to the universe that you expect everything but you don't want to give anything. It's a very negative attitude, I find. You have to understand that, the greater spiritual rewards, they need greater sacrifice. And that is actually also one of the noble qualities. You never believe that, because most of the time when people hear sacrifice, they're thinking of awful things like animal sacrifice, human sacrifice, or people get very angry if you ask them to sacrifice even a moment of their time. But on the spiritual path, you actually have to sacrifice the lower self so that you can attain the higher. So you will have to give things up. You will have to invest some of your time. There will be blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
For sure, and you might have to give up certain things. During certain spiritual practices, for example, you might have to be at least temporarily celibate, and not always, but temporarily, depending on what is happening with the Kundalini and so on. If you can't do that, if you are completely a slave to your senses, then that's not looking good for you, and you might have to give up certain dietary items that are not compatible with the higher vibrations. So there is always sacrifice of some type. You cannot just do what is the most pleasant, because the easy way doesn't lead you to spiritual heights. That leads you to material bondage only.
Yes.
And the ancient actually knew about the noble power of sacrifice, or even in a community, the individual has to sacrifice something so that all of them can live together happily. It's not just about the individual. It's about all of us. And you can have your own path, but you have to also give something to the whole. You have to give something back to Mother Earth and the creation, and to society and your community that you're living in. So sacrifice is also an important part, to know when to sacrifice and what. And it's always the lower that gets sacrificed for the higher, not like sacrificing your principles so that you can get some extra money.
Yeah, you might sacrifice a little time, or sacrifice a little money, or sacrifice a little sex, or sacrifice a little, partying or boozing or whatever.
Yes.
But
yeah,
the
alcohol
it doesn't feel like sacrifice. It feeds my soul. I mean, the alcohol thing, I definitely remember being 20. Been there, done that. Don't want to do it again. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's true. So basically you develop a willpower and you get control over your physical body, because you're nurturing your spirit. And the physical body needs to be kept healthy because it's your vehicle, but it isn't the absolute ultimate reason of your existence, the physical body. That's just a vehicle that you have for your spirit. And you learn to discipline your physical body and to also discipline your mind. Discipline is very important, and you won't have anybody to discipline you and stand behind you all the time with a whip. So you are the one who has to do it by yourself. And then again, discipline goes together with willpower. These two are very important.
Yes, definitely.
You have to do the spiritual path, and it requires you to do things with a certain method. For example, if you decide on the path of meditation, you have to set aside a certain amount of time, whether that will be a half hour in the morning and a half hour in the evening, or you can do 3 or 4 hours a day. But you should say that, okay, this is what I do. I will do meditation regularly. I'll do it once or twice a day. I do that much each session, and then really stick to it. Rather than, okay, I tried meditation this week, that didn't work out too well, now I'm gonna try Tai Chi next week or something like this. Because then you're not going anywhere, so stick with it. It's like if you want to dig for water, you want to dig a well, you dig in one place all the way deep down until you get water, rather than you digging 50 holes and each one just a meter deep. That way you never get your water.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And then one quality that is extremely important on the spiritual path is truthfulness.
Yes.
The gods don't respect liars, and the higher beings don't either. They can't even lie, because if you're reaching a certain spiritual level, you cannot lie. It's just not physically possible. And the most difficult part of truthfulness is not just that you're not telling any lies with your mouth, but that you actually have to be brutally honest with yourself.
Yes, that's the hardest part, but definitely, I mean, it's so easy to notice flaws everywhere outside us, but yeah, looking in the mirror is definitely essential to spiritual growth, I'm learning.
Yeah, so denial goes out of the window there, because you have to do constant self-examination of your motives and your possible flaws. It's not to beat you up, but, in a detached way, find out your weaknesses so that you can rectify them. Because spiritual practices are like a pressure cooker. You create a lot of power, and if you have a little crack, the whole thing will blow apart.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. Of course, if you have a little crack, perhaps you can heal it as well. But, I totally hear what you're saying. It is that time, unfortunately. We have to take a short break. We will be back at the top of the second hour here tonight with Shaman Avalon Sakti. Her website is sacredserpent.net. That's sacredserpent.net. Tons of information on her website about all of these things we're talking about here tonight. So it is that time. Stay tuned, everyone. SoulJourneysRadio.com.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
All right. Welcome back. Top of the second hour here tonight with Shaman Avalon Sakti here on SoulJourneysRadio.com. Her website, again, is sacredserpent.net. She is an amazing spiritual healer, can help you with past life issues or perhaps even soul loss, fragmentation, and soul retrieval, as well as other things you can find out on her website, sacredserpent.net. And we left off here talking about truthfulness and living in truth. And, of course, the hardest part is being brutally honest with yourself. So please continue.
Yes, Christy. So living in truth actually means that your thoughts, your words, and your actions have to be one. It's not just not telling any outright lies, but it means that everything has to be aligned.
Yes, so you can't live a lie.
No. So, for example, if you believe in non-violence and protection of animals and you're working in a research facility where there are animal experiments being done, then you're not living in truth.
Yeah.
So you have to live it, your inner truth. And whenever there is something that, your soul tells you is not right, you shouldn't be doing it. If you keep on doing it, you're going to do harm to yourself and spiritually degrade yourself.
Yeah, for sure. We had a woman on the show recently who was working, she got like her cushy dream job, that she dreamt about from high school and college and prepared herself for and, got to travel all over the world. And then when they moved her to another department, she had found that everything that she was basically promoting was brought about by slave labor in other countries. And when she found that out, she's like, you know what? I really don't think I can do this despite, the paycheck you're offering me anymore. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. And risked it all, threw it away. And, of course, later on, it ended up working out for her even better than she could have imagined or, at the time. But, yes, it's very important. You have to live your truth.
See, and that is a very good example of that lady, because she didn't do the easy thing and just go along with it.
Yeah.
She followed, her inner truth, and then she passed the test of character, and the universe rewarded her in the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so sometimes the reward doesn't come immediately, or it may even seem that you're going through a long hell before things get better.
Yeah, it may even seem it never comes, huh?
I had these thoughts myself at times, I must admit. But it always pays off, you do, everything good that you do is going to pay off eventually. Not necessarily immediately, but eventually you come to the end of the suffering and you're making a breakthrough. And even if the physical suffering doesn't end, you come to a state where your mind detaches itself, and you can be in a higher state where the physical things don't matter so much. You can find inner peace, and there's just absolutely nothing better than inner peace. There's nothing you can buy with money that is better than inner peace.
Definitely. Okay. So, living your truth, I mean, how can we get to the point where, okay, the woman I just referenced, to where she is, where she had the strength and the courage, to just say no and walk away from these hundreds of thousands of dollars?
And that's called integrity.
Is it something you're either born with or not? Because, I mean, I'll tell you, at least for me, it's just... Despite whatever I remember turning down jobs like that in my early 20s, way before my conscious spiritual development, and, where I have my mom getting mad at me, or everyone I know, oh, Christie, that was such a stupid decision, and, how could you do that? So is integrity something we're born with, or is it something we can actually practice and acquire?
You can acquire it, so if you didn't have it right from the start, because people have change of character. Some people were not very good in the beginning, and then they had some kind of crisis or a big event or near-death experience, and they changed around completely. So you cannot use the excuse that I don't have the integrity gene.
Yeah. I mean, it just kind of seems that way, though, where other people, for example, within my own family, they're just like, take the money, just shut up, sell your soul, that's the way this world is.
I think it's a choice that we make, of wanting to be good, and then we have to uphold that choice in spite of the difficulties that are thrown at us.
Okay. All right, so even people who maybe have displayed lack of integrity in the past, there's hope for them to, kind of implement some integrity into their lives?
Absolutely, there's hope for them. Whether I personally don't trust somebody who has shown me that they have no integrity and no character.
Of course.
So these people will not be my friends, because once I've seen them for what they are, and it's not very often that people turn around completely from basically cruel and and exploitory to a kind-hearted, nice human being.
But it is possible. Awesome.
It does happen. So it's not lost. If somebody wants to change, they can absolutely change. It's the wanting to change is the important thing.
Yeah. Well, that's hopeful.
Yeah. So other things on the spiritual path often undervalued, but cheerfulness is actually really important. Because sometimes things will be difficult, and if you have a kind of cheerfulness about you and a contentment, that is better than you constantly sour-faced and thinking of all the things you didn't get yet and how hard the spiritual path is. Some people say they're very spiritually advanced, but even when you see them sitting there in meditation, the mouth goes down like an inverted U.
Well, what's the antithesis of cheerfulness, Shakti? And the reason I ask is because the people who rail on me the hardest about my laughing, my giggling, my voice, sounding uppity, blah, 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 they all come from so-called or self-proclaimed spiritually enlightened crowds.
I mean, the true spiritual aspirant should be cheerful and should have an inner happiness, and if the spiritual aspirant is constantly dour and sour-faced and bitter, there's something wrong with their spiritual practices.
I agree. But hey, what do I know? I'm just an aspirant myself. Okay. All right, so cheerfulness, honesty. What do you have next?
Humility actually is one that is really important, and now that is a word that is often misunderstood, because usually when people think of humility they think groveling and moving around on your knees, but that's not what humility is. For one, humility means that you know that you don't know it all.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think you've got it all figured out, then you stop learning. And if you think that you already have achieved the ultimate enlightenment and you're like on the absolute highest level of spirituality, then very likely you're going to have a very big spiritual fall soon.
Yeah, we see that a lot too. They think sometimes that, oh, well, I've already learned all there is to know, and I'm already awakened, I'm already enlightened. It's just you people, you those that are beneath me. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound very enlightened.
Yeah, those that are very arrogant on the spiritual path will be cut down to size by the higher beings.
Definitely, I agree with that. Okay.
You don't go anywhere with arrogance on the spiritual path. So remember, others are on a journey too. Some of them may not be as far as advanced as you are now, and there's others that are far ahead of you and me.
Yes.
And so when you see somebody who is like far ahead, instead of being jealous, that's an attitude you can't have as a spiritual aspirant. Rather, you should think that, okay, this being or human being is so much further ahead than I. What are his wonderful virtues that I should start to develop myself? That's a good attitude to have. And if you see somebody who is behind and hasn't got full understanding and makes mistake, instead of bashing them and or talking badly about them, you should have kindness. Kindness is a very important thing to develop.
Yeah.
And it goes hand in hand with non-violence.
Definitely. I see some people, quite often where they're like, oh, well, those sheeple are beneath us, so avoid them like the plague. They're going to bring you down. And to me, that just sounds like judgment. And I think, of course, this is just my opinion. I'm certainly not coming from an enlightened standpoint by any means. But my opinion is, instead of asking or fearing how, they are going to bring you down, how about focusing on how you can lift them up?
Well, there is a little bit of truth in their attitude, maybe, because the company that you keep is very important because of resonance. So if you're with people of low vibration, will pull you down if they are really of low vibration. But some people just apply a judgment just because somebody may not know everything in the conspiracy movement doesn't mean that they are on a lower vibration than you.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
It's a different
and there
thing.
are, definitely boundaries, of course, as you mentioned. People have proven not to have integrity. You're not going to invite them over to your house for lunch. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And there's definitely vampiric, kind of draining type people. You don't have to open yourself up to that. But just because somebody doesn't know what you know doesn't mean you can say, oh, well, I'm better than you. You're such a low vibration and you're going to bring me down. I think that's actually coming from a place of fear and maybe even lack of confidence in where they stand, as opposed to the words that they use to try to make us think that, they are confident and enlightened.
Yeah, I think there is a good dose of spiritual superiority in people also. Yeah. And that gets you down the path of ego, which is a very dangerous and destructive path.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because the ego always destroys what you value most. So if you're very proud of your spirituality, then in the end the ego will trip you up and destroy your spirituality completely.
Mm-hmm.
So superiority is not good, and we should develop a sense of humility towards all beings, not just human beings, but some people think that human beings are superior to animals, and then see where that has led us in the unethical treatment of other beings.
Yes, absolutely. Dehumanize animals, it's easy to dehumanize humans. I think we're all the same, but again, that's just an opinion of mine.
We are all pure consciousness, really, and the body that we take is just a vessel, really, to experience this reality and play in it. Mm-hmm. So if you understand it on some level, some animals actually really are more advanced than people, and I find that nowadays a lot of animals seem to have qualities of compassion and kindness that you don't find in many people anymore.
Definitely. They're able to live in the now. They always, honor their, I don't even want to call it a master, but I know that's how people look at people with pets or animals. I don't view it that way, but yeah, they're just, always living in the moment. They always love you. They're always trusting. I think they can teach us a lot.
Yeah, that's loyalty. Your animals won't betray you. With people, it's very possible.
Yes, definitely.
And some things that people really don't like is, or that is often underestimated, is purity. Okay, you need to have purity on the spiritual path. That's purity of heart, and of course also there is physical cleanliness. That's very important. I've met some people, they wanted to be very spiritual, but their house was just so filthy that there can't be any good spirits in a house like that. Or they wouldn't take care of their personal hygiene. And that creates a very bad vibration around you and attracts negative astral beings to you. Not to mention physical parasites. Like in some countries there is a widespread lice infestation of the school children. It's just unbelievable. We're talking of Western society, not some place in Africa or in a third world country. So yes, cleanliness is very important, and spiritual purity of heart is very important. And also the proper use of the sexual energy. Because sexual energy can bring you down if you misuse it on the spiritual path. You have to avoid excesses and unnecessary waste of that energy, and also to use it in any way that is energetically unclean. So if you're in a committed relationship, absolutely you can't have adultery and be spiritual. Mm-hmm. And then again, you find these gurus and they, taking advantage of their female disciples and sleeping with them. Yeah, it's really very despicable. Not to mention how stupid these women are to fall for it.
Yeah, well, they don't know. They've been programmed, and I feel like there's a lot of push from these, I guess for lack of a better word, sex cults right now, and having these I don't know, it's just been out there quite a bit on alternative radio, and they certainly trick their members into using whatever DMT or whatever kinds of drugs, and hey baby, why don't you lie down and let me worship you like a goddess, and I'll show you the divine feminine, and this is the only way to God. And I've actually been told those things myself personally, so it's creepy if you ask me. But again, if you're all of these things that you mentioned, Shakti, honest with yourself, honest with others, have humility, cheerfulness, have purity, you're going to be able to decipher that and hopefully circumvent those types of situations, however prevalent they are. But it is that time. We will be right back after this short break. Stay tuned. Shaman Avalon Sakti here on SoulJourneysRadio.com.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Welcome to the world's meeting place. American
It's practically narcotic.
Freedom
Oh, yes. I like very much.
Radio.
They're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Tonight, our special guest is Shaman Avalon Sakti. Her website is sacredserpent.net, and we are discussing ethical development for spiritual aspirants. And we left off talking about purity. And you said it's not just what you eat, also what, your energies, whether it's, clean chakras or whatever. Let's discuss what purity really is and isn't.
Well, yeah, you have to keep things energetically clean. So, and that is just a very, very large topic on its own. For example, let's say somebody is doing you a favor and gives you a gift of something very expensive. You afterwards feel an obligation to help him out in another situation, and then maybe they want something from you that isn't completely kosher, that you don't feel completely good about. And so that would bind you. So it's energetically actually not clean if you're accepting a gift that is too large or from the wrong person. And then there's also there's energy mix up. Yeah. So if you, for example, energies can cling to you from people that you had contact with. So let's say you're working in a place that is contaminated energetically, such as a mental institution or a hospital or a funeral institution or something like that. You really, when you come home, you want to take those clothes off and you want to take a shower and wear completely different clothes. I don't even wear clothes of other people. Sometimes people said, "Oh, are you cold, Shakti? Here, take my jacket." I'd rather stay cold. I don't because I feel the energies. It doesn't mean that the person that is with me, that I don't like them at all, but I feel that the other energy, and I like to stay in my own energy field. So I don't do that. But purity also includes this proper use of the sexual energy, as I already mentioned, and that is a very large topic because sexual energy is completely abused on this planet, and a lot of our problems have to do with the misuse of sexual energy.
Yes.
Sexual energy can be turned into spiritual energy when you do not have a proper outlet for it, and it is in the end better to live in a life of chastity than to just give yourself away to whoever because you're not finding the right partner. It's my personal opinion, and it's been my personal practice. And also, adultery, sex with underage and so on. These are all things which are very negative that is happening on the planet, and other things I don't even want to mention because it's just so dark and nasty. Yeah. But generally you should be either in for spiritual aspirants, either there's the path of complete celibacy that's not suitable for everybody, or you're in a committed relationship with a partner and you stick to this relationship and you don't go outside of it. And even in a committed relationship with a partner, you have to avoid excesses. There can be phases in your spiritual development when the Kundalini gets particularly active, that even in the committed relationship you might just have to go a month or two without sex. And if you don't have willpower, and you are a slave to your senses, then you will crash at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so purity on all levels.
It has to be on all levels. It has to be on all levels, energetically and physically, yes, and spiritually.
Yeah, so purity doesn't mean that you put on your Sunday best to go to church and you avoid saying the F word.
Well, yes, I mean,
more than that.
I mean, somebody who's constantly letting out a stream of foul words won't have mental purity either, Christie, or do you think?
Well, I don't know. I have a hard time thinking that one word in the English language is going to damn you to hell. But, again, it's all just my opinion.
I don't think it's going to damn you to hell.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to damn you to hell, but I don't know, have you seen the experiments that with water, I think by Dr. Emoto, if you speak certain words over water crystals, they arrange themselves in certain patterns, and these will be beautiful patterns when you sing words like love, and nasty, disharmonious structures when you sing words like hate or violence or whatever. So these words do have a vibration, and if we overuse negative words, then it will have an effect on us.
Yeah, I think I would encourage anyone to look at Dr. Emoto's work if you are not familiar with it. But yeah, totally beautiful. But again, I think it's the intent behind it. For example, if I say, "You freaking jerk, I hate you," and I'm angry, that's a heck of a lot different than, "Oh my God, have you heard Shakti? She is the most freaking amazing person you will ever meet." Or, "Oh my God, this is so exciting, I freaking love you." I mean, so two totally different places that those expressions are coming from. So I don't really think it's the word itself, but the intent.
Yeah, but I think generally we are doing things often in an unthinking way, and we should have complete control over our mind for spiritual development, which is very, very hard to do, but still that's what we should be aspiring to.
And I think we say words, like you said, that we just don't even know what they mean, that could carry a vibration, something, that we didn't expect. For example, Jehovah. Or Yahweh, or, that you might think that it's, nice and innocent and such, but then there's others that feel that, Yahweh or Jehovah are alien gods, and, that's a demon, whatever, trying to control you. So, I do believe it's entirely possible we use many words in our language that we're taught where we really don't understand the meaning or the vibration behind it.
It's true, Christie, and some words actually have been changed to mean something completely different from what they originally meant. Yes,
like humans, for one, or people, or person. So, yeah, definitely. So, I think in that case, is that really going to, let's say we're using Joe Blow. Okay, because I don't want to pick on any words because I don't really know for sure, so we'll just Joe Blow. If we are using that word our entire lives, but we don't understand that it used to be Joe Bo, which meant you're channeling some crazy alien vampiric spirit, if you believe that it is, Joe Blow really means your dog, are we really going to experience a decay in our spiritual growth if we don't really know what that word is or where it came from or that it had been changed to deceive us?
One word that I noticed was the word discrimination. The word discrimination originally meant to distinguish between things. And now it's like some kind of evil. It's like treating somebody like an inferior human being.
Yeah.
So that meaning has been completely changed, because originally discrimination was one of the virtues of the yogi, and now it's like the vice of the evil man.
Yeah.
So
I mean, just because we use the word discrimination doesn't necessarily mean it's going to throw us off our spiritual path. It's just we might not know the history behind it.
Yeah, and then sometimes when you're reading older books, then you don't get it anymore, because the way that the words have been changed, it makes it almost impossible for you to understand what the author of these old books actually wanted to express, where he or she was coming from.
Yeah.
And so there is actually a mind manipulation going on, and it uses language, and it alters language to, I think, move us further and further away from our understanding of reality.
Definitely.
This is how I see it. But that is just on the sidelines. Generally, the purity, as I said, has to be on all levels. That's the verbal purity. Generally, if you shouldn't say a word if it's not useful, or if you have got nothing good to say about somebody, better just say nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also too much talking actually does deplete a lot of energy. And I find that when my Kundalini is particularly active, I really don't feel like talking. I like to be in silence.
Definitely.
Being in silence and solitude, I think silence and solitude are two very important words that for the spiritual aspirants also, because these two are a very big challenge. Mm-hmm. But on the higher levels, you need times of silence for reflection, and solitude is completely cannot be done without. Solitude you will have to have it at some time in your spiritual development, and lots of it. Because when you're in too much company, you do not really develop spiritually. And if you cannot be alone with yourself, if you're afraid of being alone with yourself and afraid of the solitude, then you won't go anywhere spiritually either.
I totally agree with that, and that's definitely something, at least in our culture, that we are afraid of. In fact, I remember, years ago, decades ago, being totally afraid to be alone. But I have also learned if you don't choose to take that alone time, the universe will find a way to ensure that you have to experience it one way or another. And when, sometimes it's not always that pleasant.
That is a very wise insight, Christie, and that's exactly how it is. When you run from something, it's going to come after you, and you'll get it anyway.
Yeah, it sure has and will.
I actually knew a man who once told me that if he was locked up in his flat for one weekend and he didn't have his TV or radio and he was all alone, he would kill himself.
Yeah, people, yeah.
It's a little bit extreme, but I think it kind of shows that people really cannot handle to be alone and in silence.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. I totally remember the days where, my phone's not ringing, and, there's nothing on TV, and there's no one to hang out with, or no one to come over and solace me, or, what am I going to do? I'm going batshit crazy,
I can't understand that at all, I have to admit that, but that's probably because I was being left alone since I was a small child. So I have always been alone.
Yeah, thankfully you had a lot less programming than most of us here. So, woohoo! Less unlearning for you to do. Okay, so purity, left off on that. What do we have after purity?
We got lots and lots of things. I mean, there's lots of virtues you should be developing, but at least, even if you can get 3 or 4 out of the bunch down, it will make a difference. I think sobriety is also very important, that you can focus your mind and be earnest about things. I've seen people doing rituals, ceremonies, and they're fooling around, and they're laughing around, and they're not careful in the way they do things, and it leads to very bad results. it can lead to very bad results. I've even seen physical accidents happening during ritual because people weren't careful with their ritual knives and other things.
Wow. Yeah. Holy smokes, I'm just looking at the time. I swear, I feel like we just started this show, but we have a break coming up here in a second, and that means it's our last segment already, so I guess we'll just have to pick out the most important. As far as like ceremony and group meditations and things like that, for me, personally, I've always kind of been afraid of, the group settings because of the energies, and my first ceremonies actually were alone, completely alone, and I don't know, just something inside me told me to do it that way. That doesn't mean that's for everyone. In fact, I heard I was even crazier than they thought I was previously for doing such, so I definitely won't recommend that for anyone else, but, because it is important to have a teacher and, what do I expect here? What can we get out of this? Or if for some crazy reason, you can't handle it or start to panic or whatever, you have the shaman there with you to walk you through that. But, it's just this thing I have. I prefer to do those things alone.
A group can be good if they're all on the same vibration and they're working together, say in magic, then you can just raise much more energy. Or let's say you wanted to do earth healing and you have a group of people, you can do a lot more than just a single person.
Definitely. I would totally be into doing a group with like you, Noelle, Man in the chat, Casey, Tobias, a few other people like that, Leah, but the unknowns and go into groups that I don't know everyone, it's just something I've shied away from. Anyways, it is that time.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
News and information you can trust. This is American Freedom Radio. Freedom, American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
All right, welcome back. Last segment here tonight, Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com with Shaman Avalon Sakti, talking about ethical development for spiritual aspirants. And you said, Sakti, even if we get only like 3 or 4 or start practicing that we're going to see some major improvements in our lives. Are there any others that you want to get into before the show closes here?
Self-examination. That's the most important thing. You have to basically constantly observe yourself and be aware of your motives, what drives you, and aware of any weaknesses that you find or issues. And if you find any issues, then you have to be willing to work on them. So it's honesty with yourself, and it's constantly being watchful, observing the mind.
Okay.
Being in the moment and being aware rather than spaced out is also important. You cannot be a spaced out spiritual person. That's just not possible. Then you will be taken over or you get possessed by entities.
Well, what if your head's just constantly stuck in the clouds, like some radio show hosts I know that have a show something like Soul Journeys Radio?
Well, if your head is constantly stuck in the clouds, maybe you need to do more grounding, because you have to keep a balance. And maybe we should put balance on the list of spiritual virtues, because you have to keep a balance between the physical body and your mind. So if you're only in the head and you're not in the body, it's not right. And if you're only in the body and you neglect your mind, then you can't go anywhere spiritually also. And of course we have to take care of the practicalities of material life, because we do have to earn a living and taking care of a household most of the time, baby children, pets and whatever. And on the other hand, we need to also find time for our personal development, and these are challenges that we have and that we somehow need to master. I think balance is very important.
Definitely. I do prefer the clouds, but yeah, I'm learning to integrate myself into this world, and I got the home part down and the garden part down, just not so sure about the rest.
Integration is, we've already mentioned it a little bit earlier on. That means also you have to integrate your shadow, so that all parts of you come together, such as your higher self and your small self, your shadow and your bright self, your child self, of course. And then, of course, we got to always look at the ego, and get the ego cut down to size and make it work for us rather than sabotaging us. And the most important thing on a spiritual path, I think, is that you're honest with yourself, that you stay in integrity, act with honor and courage, and that you're constantly aware of yourself and what's going on around you, and see the world in a spiritual context. So whatever happens to you, you have to understand, what is the spiritual lesson here? What am I supposed to learn from this? Or what would be the best way to act in this situation with integrity and as a spiritual being?
Yeah, definitely.
The time's really run away today, Christie.
I know. Wow. I swear we've been on this show like 20 minutes. We were just discussing in the chat, when Christie gets too high in the clouds, just send her a pizza. Or another comment, hire a boyfriend. That kind of seems to work. And I do notice, actually, in regards to pizza, and I just had this discussion today, that, I was speaking with somebody who was feeling a little bit high from, maybe being out there in the clouds and just, in constant meditation and feeling really, really healthy and clean with their diet. And I'll tell you, I've felt that buzz before, and it's like, man, this is really cool, but I'm just not, I forget where I am sometimes, planet Earth. So pizza is the cure for me. In those occasions, it's like, okay, let's just eat a pizza and get all fat and bloated, and then I'm back down to earth again. So I don't know if that works for any of you, but that actually is an anti-spiritual practice, or maybe a spiritual practice that I have implemented myself in those times where I just feel like I can't contain myself. Here in Branson, Missouri, planet Earth, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, food is very important for your spiritual state, and if you have food that is heavy and it slows your energy flow down, then it does tend to ground you if you're completely over the edge, but I don't think that is the best of practices. Yeah. Better would be to learn to ground the energies directly to the earth, and work with the energies of Mother Earth, rather than get the pizza that makes you feel bloated. And I know what you mean, because
Mother Earth makes me so high, though. I go out there and garden and pick my fresh berries and greens and herbs, and I make a smoothie with it or whatever, and I'm like buzzing, spinning, like this is too much God. Too much Mother Nature. So yeah, I felt that, and so yeah, a quick fix for me, pizza.
I think I'd rather go with a Mother Earth high, the natural high. That's a natural high they can't outlaw.
Yeah, I know, but people want to lock me up.
Yeah, see, then you need to learn sobriety, Christie, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just impossible to me to not feel the magic when I'm outside, whether I'm barefoot in my garden or, hanging out at a lake or something somewhere. It's just, it's a big buzz for me.
I must say I enjoy nature very much, and these days I've been taking some very long walks, and it's just wonderful by the sea or in the forest, sitting on a hillside. I just love it.
Absolutely.
But you can do that without being spaced out. You can feel you can be in spiritual ecstasy without being spaced out. If you're spaced out, you're not fully present. That's always a little bit dangerous, because then something else can come in.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes sense. I don't know if that's like something that runs in the family, but I'll tell you, my grandmother, when she was younger and everything, she wasn't even allowed to drive a car because, the similarities between me and her are just, sometimes I feel like I'm her. I'll be driving and I forget where I'm going, or recently, less than 2 weeks ago, we were driving, and I just got lost in these beautiful mullein plants and the scenery, and I don't know, it was like an instant meditation, spontaneous. I didn't seem to have any control over, and it took me a few minutes to, where are we? Where are we going? Mm-hmm. What are we doing?
Yeah, you were stepping over to another dimension almost.
Yeah.
But the only problem is you haven't got your spiritual power under control.
Apparently not.
Then this is what you need to work on, yeah?
Probably. Yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment. So what can we do in that case? Let's say, maybe somebody out there is a little cuckoo like me, and you sometimes get lost or forget where you are and, just kind of get lost in another dimension. What can we do to bring ourselves back without eating pizza or having to ask someone and embarrass yourself? Where are we? Can you remind me where we are? What can we do?
Well, you need to learn grounding and centering and constant awareness, of your mind. So the problem is with the mind is unfocused, so it jumps about and it's doing things on its own without, you being in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And that is something that you need to learn to discipline the mind and pull it back, so that when you want to cross over to the other stage, then you can do that. But if you have to be focused like driving the car, it shouldn't happen.
Okay. Now, what about, in those situations, what if we have a hard time coming back to this dimension? I know that's something I experience. It almost feels like withdrawals, like when I wake up in the morning, there's a period of confusion, maybe an hour, sometimes more, sometimes less, where I have to remind myself, Christie, I look around my room, okay, now I know where I am, and this is what I'm supposed to do here. I have a radio show in this world. I have a garden I have to tend to. What if we just don't like coming back to this dimension? Does that mean there's something wrong with me?
I think you've just hit the nail on the head, really, because the reason why you have problem coming back is because you don't like coming back. I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with you. The problem is that this reality here has become so negative. It's not that it is negative by nature, but it's too many negative people in control of it. So, yes, if we're living in a harsh and difficult world, no wonder you'd rather be on the other side where it's nicer.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
You're listening to the future of talk. American Freedom Radio. This is American Freedom Radio.